Well, again, welcome everyone to OFM State HR Lunch and Learn. Today's topic surrounds diversity recruiting, and we're going to be facilitated by our very own Jose Dominguez. A little bit about Jose. He is a workforce research and policy analyst here at the Office of Financial Management State HR. He has over 26 years in talent acquisition, in higher education, state and county government, and private sector healthcare. Jose is also a U.S. Army veteran with a master's degree in public administration from Troy University and is an SPHR SHRM CSP certified. He facilitates the Talent Management Council and brings together state government recruitment practitioners to collaborate, share, and find solutions to enterprise issues. His goal is to improve diversity recruitment by providing resources, training, and consultation. Now, because of time constraints and the amount of information Jose will be providing, we will limit Q&A to the end of the presentation, but please feel free to add your questions and comments in the chat and/or raise your hand during the Q&A session at the end. If time doesn't allow to answer all the questions, Jose will provide his contact information so you can connect offline. The presentation will also be recorded, and the PowerPoint and other resources referred to will be made available on our Lunch and Learn page on the OFM website a few days following today's session by Walt Jones. The link to that page will also be provided in the chat. So please join me in welcoming Jose Dominguez. Take it away, Jose.
Thank you, Don. And thanks everyone for attending and spending your lunch hour with me. I'd also like to thank, before we get started, I'd like to thank Walt Jones for his technical support, and then Don Chavez for facilitating, and Sue Richards for managing my slide transitions and all-around support. So today I'll be presenting Recruiting for Diversity in the Public Sector. This presentation is intended for recruiters or HR, but much of it can be applied by almost anyone seeking to improve diversity in the workplace. The focus will be on resources, tools, and tactics to find candidates. There's still the matter of connecting with candidates and encouraging them to apply, but that is a topic for another time. Which reminds me of a situation I recently read about. A recruiter asked a candidate, why did you leave your last job? And the applicant replies, it was something my boss said. And the recruiter asked, what did he say? And the candidate replied, you're fired. So all kidding aside, today we're going to look at resources and tactics to find diverse untapped talent. And that said, this information can also be used to help find candidates for hard to fill positions. Washington State is committed to fostering a diverse workforce that reflects the richness of all of our residents and an inclusive and welcoming culture that promotes equal and fair opportunity for all. This presentation will emphasize ethnic diversity, but again, the information can be applied to other protected classes, gender, veterans, people over 40, and people with disabilities. So let's first cover some foundations before we get into some resources and tactics. So next slide. Okay. So let's get started with the benefits of having an inclusive workforce. When it comes to recruitment, a diverse workforce can help you champion the agency and state government commitment to diversity. Potential employees want to see the agency commitment reflected in the agency workforce at all levels. A diverse workforce can also enhance the agency reputation as an inclusive environment in which everyone has opportunities to reach their full potential. So I won't read through the bulleted list, but you can see for yourself. I think one of the more important ones is the broader talent pool for us. Next slide. So diversity, equity, and inclusion is about creating an inclusive and equitable work environment. At its roots, DEI has a legacy and fundamental laws that every recruiter and hiring manager should know. So these are the basic or fundamental laws that I think every hiring manager and recruiter should know. Notably, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 this year is 60 years old, and it prohibits discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, and national origin. There's also the Age Discrimination in Employment Act, which prohibits employment discrimination against individuals who are 40 years of age or older. It's one of those laws that you need to keep in mind when your hiring manager says we want to hire folks that are under 30 or Gen Z. You want to make sure you're not eliminating others that are older, that are 40 years or older. And then also the Uniform Services Employment and Reemployment Rights Act. It protects and the employment and reemployment rights of individuals who serve in the military, as well as their dependents. This includes reservists. Okay, next slide. Oh, sorry, let me go back to the previous slide. I wanted to mention the last law down there, the Washington Fair Chance Act. I wanted to add that because it protects job applicants with a criminal record so they may fairly compete for job opportunities which they were otherwise qualified. So covered employers cannot advertise job openings in a way that excludes people with criminal records from applying. Okay. Thank you. So executive orders. So you may be familiar with these executive orders. I've listed a few that provide additional guidance in support of diversity, equity, and inclusion in state government. There's a good messaging content in them for social media posting. For example, Executive Order 1607, Building a Modern Work Environment. There's a section addressing enabling a mobile workforce that encourages mobility by adopting technology and policies that support a culture of it's what you do, not where you do it. So I think, that's good content for adding to a post and starting a post on like LinkedIn or social media with it's what you do, not where you do it, something like that to get people interested in your opportunity, especially if it's hybrid or remote. And then the others here are also linked for reference as well. The Executive Order 2101, affirming Washington State business resource groups. That is a nice way to segue into the next slide for business resource groups. So here are the business resource groups in Washington State government. So recruiters should be engaging with these BRGs to find out what current issues are being addressed, events, celebrations, recognitions. They're all important content to share with job seekers to demonstrate the state government is inclusive. Next slide. All right, so in fiscal year 2023, 43% of applicants out of 441,878 were ethnically diverse. In real numbers, that's 190,007 applicants. In that year, there were 16,249 total hires. Out of that number, 23% of the hires were ethnically diverse, which equals 3,737. So that's 2% of the 190,000 ethnically diverse applicants. So that's enterprise-wide. So the important point here is you should look at your agency data. I mean, it's interesting to see the enterprise data, but what's really important to your recruitment efforts is going to be your agency staff diversity. Next slide. So according to the most recent census numbers, 34.2% of Washington's labor force are people of color. So how does your agency reflect the people you serve? And there's a chart on the side that has agency and percentages of diversity in their staffing. Next slide. Okay. So before you start recruiting for diversity, you should ask the following questions. What does diversity look like in your agency? What is the diversity like in the team, unit, or division? Does the job class you're recruiting for lack representation? And where have you not posted jobs? What is your agency diversity recruitment plan? Where have you not conducted outreach? I think one of the more important questions are, does the job class lack diverse representation, and how can you make an improvement in that area? And then what is your agency diversity recruitment plan, or do you have one, or is someone dedicated to the effort? Next slide. So if you've been recruiting for any time now, you know that everything starts with a meeting with the hiring manager. It's a common practice in the private sector, even if you've done one before for a similar position. So things do change. And these are all important points that you can share with job seekers or passive candidates. So you'll get this information directly from the hiring manager. So you want to create an ideal candidate profile, find out what keywords that you can use in your search, what's the team culture like, what's the work environment like, what's the professional development like, what's a perfect day look like for a worker in this role, work schedule, career path, and yes, even dress code. So there's that's something that candidates do ask about, is dress code. So you want to know that information so you can share that with candidates that you're recruiting. Next slide. So this slide is kind of a cautionary note. So what I mean by don't do this is don't expect that your content in your job posting will attract more diverse candidates. It's nice to have, but the content really doesn't matter if the attendant audience doesn't read it or if no one reads it at all. So we all know, if you've been recruiting, that job seekers hardly read the content of what's on your job posting. So don't expect to get different results if you're going to the same job fair all the time. So that's another one. And don't use fake diversity photos with young, happy people high-fiving each other as they are in this picture here. It's disingenuous, and it says, I know you don't support or have diversity by the way you promote it. And the answer is you want to put real people in your posting photos or in your career stock photos. And don't expect groups or association to do your bidding. They're not gonna have as much interest as you are in promoting your jobs, because I'm sure there's a lot of other recruiters asking them to do the same thing. So don't expect them to do your work for you. Instead, the next slide. So you can do this. Search the applicant tracking system for candidates, referrals from new hires or references, be present in underrepresented communities, connect with state organizations or associations, talk to passive candidates, and share recruiter intelligence with your peers. And by that, I mean, if you have a good candidate that you just can't hire because you don't have the opportunity for them, there's possibly another recruiter that you know. And in the Talent Management Council, I know people talk to each other and share information. You can also share, candidates by referring them to another recruiter. Next slide. So if you use NeoGov OLRS, and we'll call it the OLRS from here on, and you have access to reports, there are 2 sourcing reports that will help you find previous qualified but not hired candidates for specific classifications. I like to call these candidates silver medalists. So there's a report, there's also a report for veterans specifically. If you click on these reports and you enter the search dates, and I don't recommend more than 6 months at a time, and export the results to a spreadsheet, you can filter that spreadsheet to find candidates. Most applicant tracking systems I've used have a report feature that can do this. So really, if you're not in state government and you're attending and you have an applicant tracking system, I'm sure there's a report that you can customize to do these things for you. So you'll see that these report names as sourcing veteran applicants and sourcing eligible lists by classification code, and that's exactly what those reports do. Okay, next slide. So this is the twist on asking for referrals. So instead of asking employees for referral, you can ask the new hire for referrals. So you give them a postcard or a flyer to hand out to their peers. You can reward them with a challenge coin for referrals that get hired, or at least a certain number of candidates that were referred. When I was in the private sector, one thing we used to do was when we checked on references, which was on automated or online service, we would ask the referral if or the reference if they were interested in hearing more about the organization or if they were interested in opportunities at the organization. If they said yes, that would be a trigger for the recruiter to contact that person and arrange some kind of informational interview with them. Next slide. So of course, flyers are always good marketing collateral at events. They're good for engagement. Uploaded in PDF format on LinkedIn, they're supposed to get more traction, or on other social media, you can do that as well. I would say always include a QR code for people who like to use their mobile scanning device. You can create one free at a QR code creator online, so those are free. This happens to be one for OFM jobs if you scan it. Next slide. So being present in underrepresented communities. So who said you always have to be at a job fair? That's I guess an old practice that we always follow. So if you want to reach out and send a message to underrepresented communities, you'll be more effective by going to events that support underrepresented communities. There's a number of those, and you can find them online. They're easily found by you doing a simple Google search, and you could attend as a instead of a hiring event. Next slide. So here's another resource. I compiled a list of hundreds of organizations and associations that support diversity. And this page is linked, so you can click on the link when you get the slide deck, or I don't know, Sue, if you can add the link to the chat if people want to take a look at it now. So as an example of how to use this list, I'm using a link to historically Black colleges and universities. So you can see there's sections here of the diversity resource list. I'm going to the Black associations and clicking on this or using this link here for US News and World Report, HBCU best colleges. Next slide. So when you click on that link on the resource list, it will take you to US News best HBCUs in the US. As a side note, you can also find these HBCUs on Wikipedia. So there's a whole page for that as well. Use the filters to narrow your search results. So on the next slide. So in this case, the filters I use, you can see at the top of the page, the closest college to Olympia, which is, I would say the closest college to Olympia is going to be in Wiley in Texas. And the area study I used was Computer and Information Sciences and Support Services. And Wiley College or Wiley University came out on top. Next slide. So if you click on the school name, it'll take you to the college page. And this is what the college page kind of looks like. I found the career services on my own. So these are three sections of that page that were important to me. So notice you can connect with students on Handshake. And then you can click, if you click join us, it will take you to the calendar of events. There's also a career newsletter. And there's in the conduct your, excuse me, job search section, it has sites for students and alumni. What's notable here is when you click on it, it does encourage students to use Indeed and LinkedIn.com. So those are two areas that you might want to check for Wiley College or Wiley University graduates. And then for a recruiter, that means you'll find these graduates on both those sites, LinkedIn and Indeed. Next slide. So on the LinkedIn company page, you can search for Wiley College or university on LinkedIn, and then go to their company page. You can search for them by putting Wiley College in the search box when you log on to LinkedIn. And you can search for candidates by clicking on the alumni link menu on that little menu down there where it says Home, About, Posts, Jobs, and Alumni. And the results can also be filtered by location. And of course, it will be limited to those who follow Wiley on this platform. All right, next slide. So let's go back to the diversity recruiting resources list and use another example. So the example I'm using is a National Association of Asian American Professionals. It has a website, it has a web page where you can post, check out events, local chapters. You can also search on LinkedIn using the acronym NAAAP. And I discovered there's a LinkedIn group for this organization. You can join, and I'm willing to bet that you can post jobs on this LinkedIn group as well. And that's a free resource. And if you're, another thing is that you can message any one of once you join the group, you can message any one of the 9,000 members in it. And it won't count against you if you're using a free account like I am. Next slide. So LinkedIn isn't the be-all end-all platform. There are other places to find candidates, free and paid. So let's explore a few. I listed here the WorkSource Resume Bank. If you haven't used it, I recommend it. LinkedIn Recruiter Lite, which is about $3,000 or almost $4,000 per user license. Indeed.com resume subscription, that's another $3,000 I would say for a year-long subscription to it. Facebook, the free X, or formerly Twitter. ZoomInfo, and I'll show you how to use ZoomInfo a little later. Any open social media sites, Google, you can search on Google using Boolean or just a natural language search. The WARN, the Work Adjustment and Retraining Notification page, layoff trackers, directories, and yellow pages and also Yelp. So next page, thank you. So using the Workforce Business Services, I don't know if any state recruiters use that or not. It's open for use for state employers. It's free to employers. You can post jobs there. You can search a rich resume bank that's connected to monster.com resume bank. You can also filter your search for veterans. You can also message candidates through the platform. There's a little symbol that looks like an eagle on the second result of this results page that shows you that's a veteran candidate. So how do you do a search on this WorkSearch site? So I recommend conducting a search taking a broad approach. So minimal filters, no job title, search within a commute distance, so 50 miles, 100 miles, I would say 50 miles. And then keywords are important, nice to haves. And then resumes updated within 6 months. And then you start wide and then you narrow down. So in a site like this, it operates much like any other site that has resume search. You can use a variety of filters. You can instead of using any kind of Boolean search string, you can add the skills in the skills section. And then I recommend just writing your own skills. Don't use the skills that they have in the drop-down box there. Just use your own wording that you're going to use in your job posting actually. And notice on this one, really quickly, I just want to make a note here. In the search results, this first page is 1 of 20 of 1,000 candidates. So there's a lot of candidates in this site. So you might be seeing the same candidates that you do in other sites like Indeed. Okay, next slide. So People Finder is a search engine intended to search for people, but it acts like a search engine when you put in other criteria like keywords instead. So in this example, I used the words veteran and Olympia. I capitalized the and because it's a Boolean operator or command, which we'll get into later. But anyways, notice here in the second image here, there's some links at the top. So once you do your first search, this page will come up and there'll be a menu up here that you can search other social media for. So it'll say LinkedIn, there's GitHub, Quora, Facebook, Twitter, YouFind, YouTube, TikTok, Pinterest, Instagram, and Flickr. Not all of them will be useful. There probably no candidates will show up in some of those other sites, but I guarantee that you'll find folks on LinkedIn if you click that, or Facebook, and sometimes Twitter. So next slide. So sourcing on Facebook. So there's many groups with thousands of members on Facebook. You can post jobs in these groups. You can post an ad on your feed or your fan business page, or you can find professionals in the marketplace space. So as an example, I was working with Central Washington University to help them find plumbers. And one of the things I showed them was like, you can find independent plumbers that are working and they'll post an ad on Facebook. And then you can reach out to them, because sometimes independent contractors or independent plumbers are looking for benefits and steady employment. And that's one thing that an organization like Central Washington can offer. So I would check their groups, marketplace, post, fan, or business page. Next slide. Okay. So posting on LinkedIn or posting jobs on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn's algorithm likes posts that keeps people on the platform. So it doesn't like posts that take people away from the platform. The theory is that hyperlinks in posts results in fewer people seeing it. So to get over that, you can create a QR code using a free QR code creation site. You can add it to an image or a picture and include this picture in your post. You can post your job link in the comments section instead of right into the posting of your post. Be sure to add a statement at the end of your job posting if you do this, to see link in comments for more information. You can also upload your flyer or document in PDF format with your job description, contact information, and QR code. Supposedly, attached documents are favored by the algorithm. And then also higher engagement also increases reach. So when you comment, or share a post, it equals more engagement and it equals more reach. So if you see your state recruiter peers out there posting a job, you can work together and get more reach by commenting, liking, or sharing their posts. So another way to enhance engagement is to make your posts more interesting. So I think this example by Allison Cruz, she's the head of global brand and recruitment marketing at Baxter, is a genius post. It's a quiz actually, and a job announcement. So the quiz question is, can you spot 4 mistakes in this graphic? And then down here, the graphic, there are some mistakes intentionally made for somebody to figure out. And then she has her contact me if you want to share ideas. And then she has the job link down here at the bottom. She also used a lot of hashtags at the time when this was created. Hashtags were a big thing on LinkedIn. I wouldn't say so much anymore, but you could use a couple of them. It said not to use more than 3 or 5. So next map, or next slide. So let's get back to finding where diverse populations are. I don't know if anybody's ever seen the Justice Map. You can find population percentages of people of color in the country, in their state, county, or city by zooming in and selecting one of the ethnicity options at the top. You'll see that down at that light orange bar there. So in an example, I searched Yakima area and learned that there's an 80 to 90% population in Hispanic population in Toppenish area. So according to the Justice Map. So I don't know if you know what else is in Toppenish, that Heritage University. That's a 4-year private college with a career center. I don't know if anyone has heard of Heritage University or has done any recruiting there. But let's go to the next slide as an example. So in the spreadsheet, I was doing some more research after I found out, what's about Toppenish. I found a spreadsheet for Hispanic serving institutions of higher learning in the US. So at the National Center for Education Statistics, that's where I found this spreadsheet. So according to the NCES, Heritage University has a 72% Hispanic enrollment. Let's go to the next slide. So if you go to the Heritage University site and Career Center page, you'll find that you can post a job for free for 30 days, that college students and alumni are eligible for career services. They have a career expo and participate in WorkSource Center events. So there's a lot of things you can do by doing some searches, and a lot of colleges and universities do have similar options. All right. So let's go to the next slide. So you may have heard about Boolean sourcing, especially if you've been recruiting for a while and your recruiting does involve sourcing. Simply put, it's just another way to find people, events, organizations, and more by using a string of keywords and operators to link them together. They can be simple or complex. So I find it gives you the benefit of search with similar results you can get with a pricey service, and that's my opinion only. You can use the Boolean operators and or not, in quotes and parentheses, and I'll show you in a second using those, how you use those terms. You can create a syntax to find professional candidate names, qualifications, contact information. You can do an X-ray search, or what they call an X-ray search, to search for sites for information. And you can find information to help you find candidates, conferences, memberships, attendees, lists, directories, things like that. I recommend testing variations of the search strings if you create one for different results. You can also use natural language. You can search images, you can find documents and associations. Next slide. So before you get to creating a Boolean search string, you'll need keywords like these. So to find diverse candidates, you'll use diverse keywords. For example, for colleges, use Hispanic serving institutions like Heritage. You can put one of the HBCU colleges in your keywords. For military, you can use a specific branch or something like honorable discharge or military spouse. For associations, you can use the name or acronym from the diversity resource list mentioned earlier. You can also use the phrase employer resource group or ERG. Another keyword or phrase could be bilingual, multilingual, or just the language Spanish, Vietnamese, Korean, or the phrase fluent in. Next slide. So operators are those commands that string word keywords together to perform a Boolean search on your search engine. So my search engine of choice is Google Chrome. Is there a better one? Yes, there could be, but this one works for me. So I use Google Chrome primarily. So this is just an example or cheat sheet, I guess, that you can use when creating a search string. So keywords relevant to the job, like skills, certifications, job titles. The and is used to connect two keywords together, like nurse and ER, HR and SPHR, mechanic, and diesel. The or the bar that's next to it can be used if you want to find one or more of the keywords. So resume or CV, CPA or accountant, and BSW or MSW. And I use the bar for that example there at the end. And the not, that is demonstrated here with a minus sign. So it's better to use the minus sign than the not. So these are words that you don't want to see, or results that you don't want to see in your search. So you don't want to see not jobs, not apply, not sample, not submit, not example, and not post. So you won't see those things come up in your search results if you add the not to that search string. So quotations are for exact words or phrases. So for example, human resources is one phrase that you want, that's a key phrase that you want results for, or Tacoma, Washington, or Java engineer. So you're gonna connect those words together with quotation marks. And then the parentheses are group parts of complex expressions. So RN or nurse or registered nurse. And then the and, another parenthesis, hospital or clinic or ER. So you want to find those professionals in either hospital setting, a clinic, or ER setting. So the file type is a little bit more advanced, but that's if you're seeking a document like a PDF document, a Word document, or an Excel spreadsheet. And then cite, this is what they call X-raying. So you use this command when you want to search inside of a site to find results for candidates. Next slide. Okay. So these are Boolean search string examples. So notice that I put these words together or commands together for an X-ray search in the first one, ZoomInfo. So if you click on this site, zoominfo.com, accountant at Yakima, what it will do, it will produce results for accountants in Yakima. I don't know if I have actually, let me see if I can pull up an example of that real quick. A little patience here. Yes. Oh, sorry, Sue. Actually, you would have to pull up the example. I can pull it up all day long, but can you do that? Just click on the first link. It'll probably open up an Edge.
Maybe we could do it at the end. You mind?
All
I
right.
can't,
Yeah.
it's not doing anything.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do it at the end, and then
Okay.
I'll just share my screen when I do that. Okay. Next slide. So there are alternate sources where you can find candidates. So Warren is a layoff tracker. You can find out who's laying off. You can search for news on the layoff, is how I do it. And then you can find candidates by adding the employer to the keywords in your search. So for example, SunPower Corporation is a solar energy corporation that laid off 96 employees because they're closing on 9/24. So what I would do is I would go to Google, search SunPower Corporation, search news, and you can probably pull up a news report or a news story on the layoff. And you could see where they're laying off at, and it's going to be in Bellevue, of course, as it's listed here. And then what I do is I go to LinkedIn and I search for SunPower Corporation and try to find candidates that are going to be affected by that. And since they're closing, anybody who has SunPower in their current employer is probably going to be affected by it. And usually what candidates do if they're being laid off is they'll put that open to work banner around their LinkedIn picture. So it makes it easier to connect and find some time to talk to them. So I added some other layoff trackers. So TrueUp, IO, Parachute List, Crunchbase, and Warn Tracker. So Warn Tracker is just kind of another version of the Warn Notice. It's just created by a couple of guys that were trying to create I guess a layoff tracker. The others are more technically oriented, so you can find technical layoffs that are happening in the nation or in the state. Actually, you can sort some of these lists by state as well, or city. Okay, next slide. It's probably the end. So we've got about 15 minutes for questions, but I do want to show the example for the links that way you can see what it looks like in real life. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I don't know if that's showing up. Is that showing up?
There it goes.
There it goes. You can see my slide.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click on the link to show you what these examples look like. And so for the Zoom info with Accountant and Yakima, you're going to see and Zoom info is kind of quirky too, because sometimes you can find the information and sometimes you can't. If you have a paid subscription, you can probably find a lot more, but I'm not endorsing them or encouraging people to have a paid subscription because I'm not sure what the investment would be, the return on investment would be like. But let's click on this person here. So there are some workplace phone numbers here. So there's contact information here. She happens to work for Yakima Urology Associates and is probably an accountant with that organization. And sometimes you can even find an org chart in here. In this case, there isn't, unless you log in, you can find an org chart as well, but I'm not going to do that. So let's take a look at another example. So Association Plumbing Services, I use this example to help Central Washington when I did a presentation out there for them. It's just kind of a search string that has this keyword phrase, but I'm looking for organizations that have .org in them and local chapters. And so you can see here, there's a plumbing organization here with 60 local chapters, and you can go in and then check out what they've got there. And also you can find candidates by using this association or this chapter acronym in your LinkedIn search and find candidates that way who are affiliated with that organization. So let's look at diversity associations in Washington State. So that's what you would call a natural language search. So diversity associations in Washington State, you can, your search results will look like this. So there's a lot of results here that you can click through and find more information about whatever diversity I mean, you'll have to do some searching and some research on them because there's a ton of them. And then let's look at the LinkedIn example. So linkedin.com/in/RN or ADN or registered nurse. This is strictly for nurses. And the reason why I put the in here is because that's how profiles in the URL look. So if you were to go up to your URL where your I guess your link is, that's how it connects to profiles. And then Olympia, Washington, I spelled out the entire Olympia, Washington because that's how it's linked. That's how it looks in the profile. And so I tried it with a shorter version like Olympia, Wa, and it doesn't come out so great. But I'll show you what it looks like. So now it's not going to go into LinkedIn because this is kind of a backdoor way of searching for candidates on LinkedIn without using up your search limits. LinkedIn has a policy called commercial use. If you're using it more than they think you should, they're going to stop you from searching. So if I looked at one of these links, it will tell me to sign in, but I'm not going to. So here's a nurse, BSN RN in Olympia, Washington, working for Olympia Orthopedic Associates. And like I said, you can find candidates LinkedIn. It's kind of nice because you don't have to search candidate by candidate. You can see pretty much most of the the summary about what their experience is in the results. So let's go to Facebook and search for a plumber in Ellensburg. So Facebook, you're going to see a lot of ads, a lot of information about, maybe supplies or whatnot, but occasionally you'll find, like, here's a link to Central Washington, for example. Tells me I need to link in, but I'm not going to. And they're hiring. So that's their company page. But anyways, they're hiring for trades as well. And so sometimes you'll get that kind of information there. And then let's say you're looking for another trade, electrical. Let's go to Electricians Labor Unions in Washington, so the IBEW. So what this tells me is I can search for electricians by using IBEW as a keyword. And I could use it in my LinkedIn search, or I can use it for searching for resumes. Another thing I did was layoffs in Washington State, 2024. And you'll get all the news of layoffs in Washington State. And that, as I mentioned earlier, can help you with your recruitment by searching for candidates who have been laid off by larger organizations. And so here's an example of, let's go to TrueUp. An example of one of these layoff trackers. So it's a tech layoff tracker, tells you, who laid off in what month of the year. And then you can search for the number of people, the date, and then why they're laying off. Okay. I'll stop sharing now.
It's like Teresa Garvey has had her hand up for a
Yeah, let's
while.
go ahead and do that. Is my share off? Now it is. Okay. Okay, Teresa, you have a question? Maybe not. Any questions in the chat that you see, Sue? Yes, you will be provided a copy of the slide deck.
Jose, this is Janet Frostad here, over at Department of Retirement Systems. Hi.
Hello.
Thanks for all the great information. When we were looking at that layoff list, which one were you looking on or at? The one that you were showing? I know there were links on the side. Was it one of those?
Oh, the one for the WARN, the Worker
Uh-huh.
Adjustment
Yeah.
Retraining notice. That was at ESD. You can find that at the WorkSource site, actually.
Oh, okay, great. Thank
And
you. Appreciate that.
you know what's nice about that is you can sort it too by city. If you're looking in a specific city, you can sort it and see who's been laid off. It goes back pretty far, but I would just go with what's happened in the last year or 6 months.
Yeah.
I've had candidates from Amazon call me that have been laid off in the last year, and or last year. And what's happening is their unemployment ran out, and so they're searching for jobs and not having
Mhm.
any luck because they're trying to go back into the same kind of tech field. So they're out there.
Right. Okay. And you said that's on the WorkSource site.
WorkSource.
Super. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for the question.
Mhm.
Jose, this is from Diana Humes in the chat. It says,
Huh.
at a recent job fair, the idea was floated for a state agency recruiter network / Teams channel to share job fairs, outreach sources, etc. Is this something OFM could potentially facilitate or create for us?
A Teams channel. Well, we have the Talent Management Council, so that's one place where recruiters get together to share information, and one standing agenda item is to share events, um, any news, any conferences, any training that is free or paid, or any job fairs. And we get, some good contributions at that level. The Talent Management Council. And that meets on the second Tuesday of every month. And it's scheduled for 2 hours, but I would say 1.5 hours is about the average.
Teresa Garvey had a question. What kind of support do you offer these diverse employees once they enter the workforce at the state level? And I can answer that. I don't know that the state level we provide resources, but what at the state level there is the business resource groups.
Business resource groups at the state level, for sure.
It looks like Jean has her hand up.
Hey, Jean.
There it is. Yeah, so I wanted to going 2 steps back. You're talking about sharing events and things like that. Can you put that information in the chat or something of when you meet or that type of thing? Because I sort of do that on my own. When I go to job fairs, I'm recruiting for Developmental Disabilities Administration for the agencies. And so when I'm at job fairs and I see a state agent, I say, hey, would you like to be on my mailing list? And so I send out, when I hear of a job fair, I send it out to everybody on my list. But it'd be great if I can incorporate that with what you're doing. So we're all doing the same thing, as opposed
Sure,
to everybody doing different lanes and stuff,
You're welcome to send that to me or to Walt Jones, and we'll add it to the agenda at the Talent Management Council. Another thing I hadn't thought about, but if it's timely, we have the OFM job distribution list. I don't know if you've seen that or not. It goes out to about 4,000 subscribers. But if you have information that you want to include on that, we might be able to, put that in because usually there's an article up at the top. We could put an event up there as well.
Okay. All right. So that's the OFM job list.
Job distribution list. And you can also contact me or Walt for adding that to the list.
Okay. Oh, Walt.
And
Okay.
Jose, I shared the webpage for the Talent Management Council, but how do people get on the invite to the meetings? Is it with Walt or you?
Oh yeah, with Walt. They send him their email. He'll put them on the invite list and send the calendar invite to them. So the second Tuesday of every month, between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any others? So we're just about at time, and I want to say thank you again for everyone who attended today and spending your lunch hour with me. I really appreciate it. And I hope this was useful to you. If you have any questions that you think of later, please feel free to contact me, and I'll try to help out wherever I can.